This
recording this
conference will
call.
now be recorded.
We know that we will be recording this call. I forgot to press record earlier, and we will be posting it to Hanno's website. So I know that we really wanted to do this presentation in person, but your safety is our highest concern, and we want to make sure that we're stopping the spread of COVID. And so know that your comments will be heard at the end of the meeting, and if you would like to view this presentation, it will be posted to Hanno's website shortly after the presentation. So again, thank you all for your time. At this time, I'm going to go and start sharing my screen, and we'll go through a presentation, and then we'll go through and take questions at the end. So again, thank you so much. All right, so again, the purpose of tonight's call is to talk about Florida Avenue development in District D. Again, my name is Joshua Haston. I represent LDG Development. My colleague Chase Kane is on the line, and we also have Hanno. We are developing this in partnership with Hanno. It is Hanno-owned property. So the purpose of tonight's mission, or the purpose of tonight's meeting, is again to share a little bit about LDG and our mission, as well as to share our current proposal for the particular property in question, as well as to discuss what we believe is some community benefits and hear from you, the neighborhood, about design preferences as we potentially move forward. So just a little bit about LDG. We have been around since 1994, and we are a developer of workforce and affordable housing. We also develop some market rate housing. We believe, and it is our mission, and in every single property, and everywhere we go, we believe that everyone deserves a quality place to call home. And so that's at the heart of everything that we do. We work to serve our community and our tenants that we live in and work in. And we know now more than ever, housing is needed. It's super in need in New Orleans, super in need in every community, especially workforce and affordable housing. So part of that is in embodying the community's vision for what they want to see in their community. Because again, we are outsiders from the community coming in, so we want to hear from the community and make sure that we're living up to the expectations you have for us. So we want to help bolster that. We want to help bolster and form long-term partnerships with communities in the Upper Ninth Ward and around the Florida neighborhood. So we want to be a part of the community for the long term. We are in it for the long haul. Again, just a little bit more about us and ourselves. LDG is, as I mentioned, has been around since 1994. We develop pretty much all across the South, and we have, since 1994, built around 14,000 apartment units. One thing that sets us apart from most developers is that we have never sold a property. That means that we hold on to properties long term. We are invested in the community long term. We're invested in the way that it's maintained, the way that it's managed, and the way that we upkeep the property and tenants and embodying and building up the communities that we come into. So that is one important thing about us. We have been in New Orleans since right after Katrina. We developed in partnership with Gulf Coast Housing, the Muses. It is a 263 unit development, a block off St. Charles behind Houston. It is at the corner of Barone and Felicity. So if you would like to drive by that property, know that we develop beautiful properties. And across Louisiana, we've also developed around 1,300 apartments, the bulk of which are in Baton Rouge, but we also have properties in Lafayette as well as in Lake Charles. Likewise, we are working simultaneously with Hanno on another property that they own in District C, the Christopher Park, what was formerly known as Christopher Homes. So we are working to redevelop that property. So long story short, we are well versed in New Orleans culture and history. We want to make sure that we are continuing to bolster and build up and create the neighborhoods and communities that you already have and love. So again, just to go a little bit deeper into this particular property, it is in the Upper 9th Ward. It is in Councilmember Brossett's district. For those of you that cannot see on the screen, we are talking about streets. It is Florida Avenue to the north, North Dorganwa to the east, and it is also bounded by the south by, Mazant to the east, North Dorganwa to the south, as well as Law Street to the south. So it's a pretty big parcel. The property is already zoned for our intended redevelopment of it. It is zoned historic mixed use 2. So that allows for a broad mix of things, apartments, townhomes, multifamily, commercial. It allows for a lot of things, but it also restricts the facades to make sure that it looks somewhat similar to a lot of the community around you, that you know the neighborhoods that you love. And so we'll talk more about that later. For those of you that can view the screen, you are viewing a very, very, very preliminary concept map of what we would like to design and build. Nothing is set in stone. It is very open to the public. We're wanting to take feedback that is part of tonight's mission. And so we'll talk about that later. Part of the things that we like to do for this meeting is to discuss the community benefits. And part of those benefits that we will be building back brand new sidewalks to go throughout the community. We'll be ensuring stormwater resiliency throughout. This community should be built to enterprise green community standards. So for those of you that may not know, that's very akin to like a LEED development. So all the buildings will be Energy Star certified, as well as having very resilient landscaping and stormwater practices being kept on the property. Additionally, we will be being sure that we're building back more tree canopy. As you probably know, for those that are familiar with this property, there is currently no trees on the property. And we know from driving around New Orleans, from living in New Orleans, from staying in New Orleans, that trees are a great part of your beautiful city. And so we want to make sure that we're bringing back trees to this site. So we'll talk. We're very open to that. We want to make sure that we're bringing back live oaks. We want to make sure that we're bringing back any sort of other native plants that we think will fit in with the current culture of New Orleans. That also works to help with shade and cooling the site, as well as with the stormwater resiliency. Other things, we want to make sure that we're improving the streets and the pedestrian and street lighting. So I know that this area is going, there's a lot of paving happening in this area. So know that all the streets coming through here are going to be repaved and going to be nice and neat through the development, as well as adding back street and pedestrian lighting. So it's safe for everyone to walk anytime you want to drive anytime you want to. We want to make sure that we're building a very safe community. Part of this is just improving the vehicle and pedestrian activity. So it's going to be a very connected development. Additionally, we believe that this development is going to provide some added housing variety. So we'll talk more about it on the next slide. But for those that are just listening in, we're currently proposing a mix of apartments and townhomes. And we'll take feedback later because the zoning actually allows for some commercial. So we'll talk to you guys and really want your feedback to make sure if you want commercial, then please voice an opinion on if you do and if you don't, because we really want to hear your feedback. Other benefits for this, as we know that it's going to provide further economic development in the district. We want to make sure that we're providing tons of, we want to make sure that it's continuing to uplift the area around it. Other things that are a good benefit is this will bring plenty of construction jobs as well as permanent jobs in the neighborhood. So it should lift, or it will lift all boats, as they say. Going a little bit deeper, as I mentioned, we would like to build a mix of apartments and townhomes. All of these apartments, again, and townhomes are going to be built to enterprise green community standards. Other amenities of the site will be a clubhouse for the community members. This will include a business center, like if you need to access the computer, if you need to print something out, if you need to do some tutoring, if your student or child needs to research something for a class project, well, we're going to have a business center that they can do that. Additionally, we know that your health and fitness is at a high priority. So this site will have a fitness center included in some of the buildings. So we're going to make sure that that's all your weightlifting and treadmills and dumbbells, a number of gym equipment. It will also have a community room, so for community events to be hosted. So that's if the Florida neighborhood wants to have a community get together or another community meeting about another development or another happening, you can use the community room in this development. As I mentioned earlier, the zoning allows for this commercial space. I should say that it's not our preference. We would not like to do commercial space, but we are very open to that. If you want commercial space, please voice an opinion. Please tell us what you do and don't want, and we'll very much take that into consideration. Other things, this site, again, is going to have some green space on it. So that's going to include a community playground as well as a dog park. We know that in times like these, you need some green space around you. We also know that green space is kind of in a shortage in a lot of neighborhoods in New Orleans. So we want to make sure that we're bringing some of that back for the community. Green space is also a good way to help with that stormwater resiliency. As I mentioned, we're also going to bring back some more tree canopy, and we're going to help to make sure that this site is very accessible and walkable to public transit. Other things, again, we've already mentioned this, is building back in street connectivity and pedestrian lighting to make for a safe and walkable and connected neighborhood. So that's, I threw a lot out, so that's a lot to talk about, but we're going to take some comments and feedback on that in a second. Going back to, or looking forward, there's a very general, I want to stress general timeline. This is the first of probably 2 or 3 community meetings. We hope that we can have a community meeting that's truly in the public. We would love to have one as close to this site as possible. We know that COVID's, it's not safe to do that right now, but it is our goal to have 2 to 3 more community meetings. And we will be sure that we share those invites with you. After those community meetings, we're going to start the permitting process to work on getting the proper building and grading permits for the site. And we hope to close on financing and permits in late winter or spring of 2021 with a grand opening way down the road. So I just really want to stress that this is a long time from happening, and that this is very tentative on receiving financing as well as building permits. And again, your feedback is a key part of that. So I guess part of it too is, as we've mentioned, we want to get your feedback. For those of you that can view the presentation, there are 6 pictures on the screen. We would really love to get your feedback on designs that you do or don't like. So for those that can view the screen, you can please use the chat function. That is, I think I'm seeing several people have already discovered where the chat function is, but it is it looks like a little comic bubble, talking bubble. If you would click on that and then type in the 2 pictures that you like the most, the 2 pictures that you like the most. For those that are just listening in, again, know that this presentation is being recorded and it will be public so that you can voice your opinion and your preference on designs that you do like. So we're going to give you intel on how you can send us in your community, your feedback in a second. So again, if you're on the video, please type in the chat box the 2 pictures that you like the most. We'll give people around 30 seconds to do that before we move on. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wiggins, for your feedback. About 10 more seconds and then we'll move on to the next slide. And again, for those that are just listening in, we're going to share with you how to provide your feedback once you can see this later. Okay. Okay, so again, after this meeting, Hannah is going to post the recording that's happening. Once they post the recording, there's other ways that you can give feedback. On the screen, I've posted my our address that you can mail addresses to. We're also we can get your email address if you have comments later, and we can be sure that we share the information with you in our email addresses as well. So our address, as you will see, I'm currently based out of Nashville. It is 414 Union Street, Suite 1900. Again, that is 414 Union Street, UNION Street, Suite 1900. And that is in Nashville, Tennessee, NASHVILLE, Tennessee. And the zip code is 37219. 37219. Just one last time, and again, you'll have access to this later. This is 414 Union Street, Suite 1900, Nashville, Tennessee, 37219. And definitely, we're going to have another community meeting. We are tentatively scheduling that for late August or early September. We hope that meeting is in public, like in a physical location as opposed to virtual. But if not, we'll have a similar meeting just as this, just like we are tonight, and we'll be sure to share that invitation with you. I know we've collected a fair amount of email addresses tonight, and we want to make sure that this is public for everyone to attend. Now we've reached the time where we're going to start taking some feedback. So the way this is going to work is we're going to answer the questions of those that are viewing the video first. And then after the video, or after we answer those questions individually from those that are viewing the video, we're going to take questions from those that are just calling in. So at each stage, for those that are viewing on video, if you would just please alert us in the chat function if you have questions, and we will individually unmute you, and then we'll allow you to ask your question, and we'll answer them individually as they come in. After we've gone through all those, again, we'll go to those that are on the call. Okay. So Chase, I'm seeing that Miss Johnston has a couple of questions. So if you would please unmute Miss Johnston.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm president of the Desire Florida Community Association, and I have a couple of questions that I need to ask about.
Okay.
The pictures that you showed us, none of those has the aesthetics of the community. It's not reflecting, the housing or, in our community. That's one. And what can be done? How can we all chat on how we can, make it look a little more aesthetic to our community? The second question I have was, who will be keeping up those trees? Because the city of New Orleans, we can't even get them to cut grass. So I wanted to know, when we plant the trees, who will take care of the trees? And last but least, will it be bright lighting, or will it be those little bitty ones, the lighting that y'all have in the housing development now? Because it's those lighting, it don't light enough. It just light right there where the light is. So, those are just some things I had to ask.
Well, all great questions. And so I'll answer those one by one. Thank you for chiming in, Ms. Johnston. The first question, I believe, was about trees.
No, the first
actually, that was
aesthetics.
Sorry, the first question was about aesthetics. So yes, there is historic mixed use. So we've got a couple architects on the call, and we'll be sure at the next meeting, if you think those pictures weren't reflective of what you liked. I saw that you posted somewhere in the comments about the pictures that you liked or didn't like. But we'll be sure and get a broader mix of pictures at the next community meeting, so we can have get broader feedback. And so you and I can communicate offline or you can send me your own pictures, and we can get a bigger pool of pictures to pull from.
Okay.
So great question. Second question you asked was about the trees. So LDG and our property manager will maintain those trees. I know that sometimes trees can be a bit crazy in terms of breaking up the sidewalks long term. So we're going to make sure that that's taken care of. Again, we're long-term community, part of the community holding these things. So we want to make sure that we're having a beautiful, safe, walkable community with trees. And again, if you have questions or comments about specific types of trees that you would like to see, please share those with us, and we'll take those into consideration as we move forward with the landscaping plan. Again, we've got civil engineers and architects on the line, so they'll hear that and they'll take that into consideration. And again, these will be public, and so we'll take more comments later. The last question you had was regard to lights. Again, that is it's going to have both street lighting as well as pedestrian lighting. So that means it's going to be safe and walkable at all times, not blinding in through your windows if that's what you're worrying about. But those will be designed to code, as well as the pedestrian lighting will be, again, aesthetically pleasing and safe for those walking on the sidewalk at night.
Josh, I had one other question. Who will be
Okay.
in these apartments that you're proposing? Will it be like seniors or will it be mixed? Because that's going to be a problem.
Okay, it's a great question, ma'am. So we are envisioning these as for families. However, we are not restrictive or keeping out any seniors. So as long as they qualify income-wise, they are more than welcome, and we would love to have seniors on the property. In terms of how the units are built, all of the ground floor units will be adaptable to those with physical disabilities. And then of those, 5% of the ground floor units, or sorry, of the total development, 5% of those will be built to ADA standards, and 2% of those will be built for specifically people that have hearing and visual disabilities. So we're going to be accounting for those people as we design these buildings. But again, it is largely geared towards families.
Will it be that if a family, let's say a family have two children, they're on the second floor, will the first floor people be able to hear all the noise that's going to go on the second floor?
No, ma'am. So we build these things, again, because we want to make sure that they're maintained long term. We build quality. So we can talk, our architects may be able to answer that question a little bit better. But generally speaking, our walls are built with 2x6s. So those are wider than the typical apartment unit. And they have a certain type of insulation in them that is required by the Energy Star standards. I'm not sure the depth between floors. Vadim Kaplan or Tony Butler, would you field that question if you know how much space there is in between the floors? I do know that we add a specific type of soundproofing on the floors to make sure that there's not as much sound coming through, if at all. It's Vadim or Tony, if you would field that, please.
Yeah, this is Vadim Kaplan. I'm a principal in charge of the project with Studio A Architecture. Ma'am, as you know, there is very few things that can stop the noise from, two kids fighting. But the floors will be designed with floor trusses filled with sound insulation, and then we're adding lightweight concrete on top to make the floor structure as soundproof as possible. And then between the units, just like Joshua mentioned, we are using double walls between the units, again, to prevent, essentially, instead of building one wall, we're building two side by side to prevent sound from traveling from one apartment to the next sideways.
Someone just texted me and asked me where is the community, who will be able to use the community center? Is it just the residents of the complex, or is it inviting to the whole community?
So that is up to you guys. What we typically do at our communities across the board, again, we're in a lot of different locations, is that it is designed primarily for the tenants of the development. However, we work with our property managers that work with local nonprofits or the council district. And if they want to host a meeting in our community space, they are more than welcome to do that. But it is not free and open. It's you work with the property manager to make sure that that's organized.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I see that Miss Cynthia Wiggins has asked a question. Chase, would you please unmute Miss Wiggins, please?
Josh, I have I want to piggyback on some of the questions that was asked previously. Currently, there are 50 units on the property right now. Will the design reflect what is currently at that property, or are you guys talking about something totally different?
So the property is actually vacant. There's adjacent to the property is the Florida development that was built, I believe, around 2009 or 10. So the property that we're talking about in question is actually vacant. But to answer your question, it will be, again, it has a similar zoning. So it's that historic mixed use, so they will have a similar aesthetic.
What I'm trying to understand, I'm quite familiar with it, and I know exactly what area you guys are talking about. But there are townhomes that are currently at that site that is in the area where they were previously new units built, and we lost them in Katrina. What I'm trying to say is that, and because we can't really see what the buildings are really going to look like, I'm trying to see if you guys, I know you mentioned something about townhomes, but then we went to talking about multi-story buildings. So that tells, there's an indication to me you got, I don't know how many floors of units, which is not reflective of what is currently at the property. And I think Ms. Margarita indicated that based on this design here, it won't reflect what is currently at or surrounding the property. It's something that I think all of us will be concerned about. So I'm wondering how many stories, if you're talking a multi-story building, how many buildings that will be, what's the unit sizes? Is it how many twos, how many threes, how many fours, ones, or whatever that's going to look like? Because that's an indication to us of how many people will actually be living at that property. And of course, one of the things we've always talked about in the city is reducing that level of density at those sites, and we don't want to go back to what we had. And I'm just curious to know what that's going to look like.
Yeah, all great questions. Thank you for asking them. So with regards to the site plan, again, I just want to say this is very preliminary. So that's part of what this meeting was about, is gathering your feedback. For those of you that are just on the phone, we are showing primarily townhomes along Law Street with multifamily behind, as well as on the parcel east of Alvar Street. So the way our thought process in this, again, very preliminary design, was that the townhomes would serve as a buffer between the multifamily, like the higher density, so you're not just walking out of the existing Florida neighborhood and looking at your door and seeing apartments. I recognize that not many people want to see that. So we thought we could use a buffer of townhomes around that, so that you don't see the multifamily per se, at least from the existing neighborhood. That was our intent. Again, this is very preliminary. The apartments themselves, or the townhomes, are most likely going to be 2-story to match what's around the Florida neighborhood already, and the multifamily will be 3-story. So again, that is, we don't think that 4-story is way too dense or higher. Even though we could go 4-story with the zoning, we think that's way too dense. We agree with you, Ms. Wiggins. We don't want that much density on this site, and we don't think it's a good fit for the neighborhood.
So about how many units you talking about on this site? Great
question. So including the townhomes, we're estimating around 300. So that, I know that sounds like a lot, but the density, again, this is around 18 or 20 acres. So that density is not too high. It's probably a little bit less than what was there originally. I don't know the exact numbers.
I don't remember. I don't know if Diane is on the call, but I also had someone, and I'm gonna leave that alone and kind of move on, because like you said, this is more or less preliminary.
Mhm.
So I'm envisioning that probably it's going to be similar to what we have here. We have one multi-story building and the rest of them are townhouses. But it sits like on the outer skirts of the property. You talked about some energy efficiencies. Are you guys
Mhm.
proposing to put some solar panels on the buildings?
It is not our desire to put solar panels. Again, we don't think that fits with the aesthetics of the neighborhood. We could look into that. We have a property in Baton Rouge that does have solar panels in it. So we know how to do that if we need to. That kind of adds to the cost, and it makes it really difficult to do, but it is an option. So if you would like that preference, we can look into that and take it into consideration.
You also talked about the fitness center and the community center. Would there be a walking trail?
We are not currently showing a walking trail, but again, the sidewalks are going to be wide, and you can walk throughout the property.
And doggy park. I know that currently the housing authority does not allow that. It's prohibited in their lease. And I'm putting it out there because I know Hanno doesn't allow us to have dogs for various reasons.
So go ahead.
But that's not me. I'm just saying the agency doesn't do it.
Gotcha. So
And
great. You kind of go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm listening.
I was going to say you touched on a significant point, and I want to say that the property will most likely, or it will most likely be managed by Ladder and Blum. So it's not a typical Hanno lease, is what I would say.
Okay. And finally, is there going to be any opportunity for home ownership on a property?
So there is a very, we are trying to add some of that. It will not, it'll be largely rental.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wiggins.
On your plans that's here. So this that we're looking at now. This is how you plan on building it, with the apartments on the Law Street side and the Gallier Street side.
No, man. So directly across this, like if you're at the intersection of Independence and Law, like on that north side of Law Street is showing townhomes.
Independence and Law. I see Pauline. I see Alva. Okay, Independence and Law. So this is from Florida Avenue to Law.
Yes,
Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And it starts at Gallier, right? Gallier to Law, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So our townhouses are all going to be toward Independence in Law, you said?
So the townhomes, again, on this very preliminary site plan, are geared at the south side on Law Street, so that they, again, are serving as a buffer between the existing housing. So, yes.
So why we have so many apartments? I mean, if we're gonna do townhouses from Durgeois to Alva, what's about the townhousing about the other part of the community where people gonna look out their door and see apartments?
So that's good. That's good feedback. We can look at that and consider adding some townhomes there if that's what you would like.
What would be the square footage of just one bedroom in these apartments?
Great question. So I'll start off by saying this is very preliminary, and we don't have building designs yet because, again, we wanted your feedback. I will say generally across our portfolio of apartments that 1-bedrooms are typically around 850 square feet. 2-bedrooms are typically around 1,000 square feet. And 3-bedrooms are typically around 1,200 square feet. So all that's give and take a few feet, but those are generally how we size our units. Obviously, the townhomes would be a little bit larger than that.
Can you give me the square footage of a 1-bedroom again?
850 square feet.
Looks like a matchbox. And this is going to be run by Ladder and Bloom, you said?
Most likely, yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this question. So if a person who is of low income, Ladder and Bloom, that wouldn't be a problem with a person who is, let's say, a senior citizen who's looking to, let's say, move back home.
It should not. So go ahead.
And they're on a fixed income.
As long as they qualify for the incomes, then they're able to move in. So this is, again, fair housing law. We're not going to restrict anyone from having a unit if it's available and they qualify.
Okay.
Are the units subsidized?
So majority of the units are going to be at 60 and 80% AMI. Some of the units will have project-based vouchers awarded to them.
Any market rate?
There will be probably a few market rate. Again, we're trying to cater more towards the huge need of affordable units and workforce units that we know that New Orleans needs.
Any tax credit?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're gonna have a combination of project-based, tax credit, and market rate, right?
Yes, ma'am.
No public housing.
So the only public housing, if you will, it will be the project-based vouchers who would potentially be accepted as that.
So in other words,
and again,
there's
and
no
we could also.
units.
I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to see if you have any ACC units, because typically in Hano deals, they have a combination of all of their subsidized units, and I'm just curious to know if there's going to be any public housing ACC units under the project.
I'm not familiar with ACC units. Elizabeth, if you would chime in and answer that question, please.
Ms. Wiggins, there's not any traditional public housing plans for the site.
So, okay.
Wait, did I miss something? I thought this is for low income and people who have subsidy, but Miss Elizabeth said no. Am I misinterpreting anything?
So there's a difference between, I guess, public housing and affordable and workforce housing. So with workforce and affordable housing, we are looking at your income. And so if you make a certain income, then you will be able to qualify to rent a house. Let's just say if you make $100,000 a year and you didn't, unless there were a market rate unit, you probably would not be able to rent from this development. But if you were a project-based voucher tenant, again, that you could, or if you had the income to qualify for the 60 and 80% rents, then absolutely you could live. But as in terms of traditional public housing, no.
So will a resident with a tenant-based voucher, will they be accepted in your, or will you accept them in your market rate units?
Absolutely.
Okay. And there is no plans to do anything specifically for seniors, like a senior building or something of that nature?
No,
No?
not at this time, no.
Okay.
So why can't that be one of the options that we can, because prior to everybody in this community, the majority of the people in this community is senior citizens. And a lot of them is dying because they want to come home and they can't come home because they have nowhere to come to. So maybe we should suggest that maybe you can at least do a building where it can accommodate seniors. I mean, just like the aesthetics of the building don't go with what's already here. So if we give an input, why can't we input that too?
Yeah, great question, Ann. So again, if you're a senior citizen, we're not restricting you. You can definitely rent from us. So that let me say that you can if you're a senior citizen and you have the income, you can rent.
What senior citizens have that kind of income for real though? That you're talking about? They're on a fixed income.
So again, project-based vouchers too, or the housing tenant vouchers as well. But like those are all qualified.
So I'm just asking, why can't one of these buildings be designated for senior citizen living? Because you're going to mix senior citizens in with people that have children running up and down the hallways, and I mean, seniors want to live in peace.
So again, that's a great question. We can certainly look into doing that. I will say, generally speaking, when you apply for the certain type of financing that we would probably use for most of this, is that they don't allow you to just restrict one building for a certain person. Again, because they want to make it fair and available for everyone. But we can certainly look into that and speak to the authorities to see if that's an option. So thank you for raising that question.
And
Let me
Josh,
ask a question, Josh. And I'm not trying to create no environment here. I guess what we're trying to say is this: in that area of the city, there is no elderly housing. Primarily, most of the seniors that live in that area of the city are either renting 1-bedroom units, and they're not inside of buildings that are designed specifically for elderly people. And I think that community in that area of the city has really done a disservice to the residents that live in this part of the city, because they don't have the opportunity to live in the area that they like living in. I will take Gus as well as Columbia Paul. They have buildings specifically designed for senior living. And I am of the opinion, and we're going to wait to see what you do, that Columbia Paul got it right in terms of designs, in terms of accommodating the needs of the city and the people up in that area. They've done a fabulous job, and better than ours, in my opinion, in some areas. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to say to you is that what we would like to see at the Florida site, and we believe it can be accommodated if some consideration is given to that. It doesn't have to be 900 units. We talking maybe 40, 50 units where seniors can live in a redeveloped community and have their own individual space. So we're not talking about anything really massive. And I don't know that your financing is really going to allow that to happen. But I think that if we could take a building and make it a project-based building and allow it to be dedicated to handicapped, elderly, and disabled, I think it will do y'all some good. And I think it will do that area some good as well. And that's all we're probably asking for.
Yes,
Gotcha.
that's all we're asking for.
Understood. So heard you loud and clear. We really appreciate the comments and feedback. And all I can say at this point is we're going to certainly look into that, and we'll provide updates. So again, thank you so much. Are there any other questions for those that are viewing on the video?
Can I say one last thing? I'm gonna shut up. The one bedrooms, one of the things we've noted at all of the redeveloped sites that Hano had, we didn't do enough one bedrooms. There is a demand for them because we have a lot of people that are single, and even though they get to the waiting list, actually we never really get an opportunity to give them an offer because we move people from out of the units that they may occupy based on their family composition. So that we never really get to those waiting lists. And I'm just saying to you as a plea for them, I wish I would have done it. I didn't do it. We only had 6 that y'all would really, and I know financing plays a big part in how we do these deals, that we really give some consideration to for people who are single and would like to live in a nice unit as well.
Certainly, yes, and we will take that into consideration. Thank you again, Ms. Wiggins. Are there any other questions for those that are viewing the video? If not, I'm going to ask that we start taking questions from those that are just viewing on the call or listening in on the call. Okay. Hearing none, or seeing none, I guess I'll open up the call. So if you would individually unmute yourself and ask your questions and be respectful of others so we can not talk over everyone. So please, when you're ready, please unmute your phone and ask away.
How you doing? Hello?
Hello, I'm seeing that this is Miss Diane. Can you identify yourself, ma'am?
Diane Connolly, Florida Resident Council.
Okay.
How you doing? I'm picking back on some of the stuff that I'm hearing you all talking about. You said 300 units gonna be over there with this site?
About.
I'm furious with this. I'm furious with stuff that I'm hearing. I'm very furious because I'm hearing you saying different townhouses you all having. Y'all having a clubhouse, business center, dog park. We you're next to us as a public housing site, and we asked for a community center, and now they're gonna let you all build 300 units, mixed income units over there when they was doing a Florida, when they was doing this side. We couldn't get this kind of stuff. So now, and I know I heard Ms. Marguerite asked about will we have access to that clubhouse and all that, and you were saying probably no.
So I can't speak to your previous designers, but with regards to access to the clubhouse, yes, if you request it through our property manager for, let's say, an event or something, you would have access.
I'm just curious with the many as units that you all coming back up with 300 units. Would it have cameras on those sites?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I apologize for not going through it sooner. Again, the security on this site will be phenomenal in terms of you will not be able to access a building without a key fob. So it's going to be a very safe and secure site. There will be security cameras. It's going to be very safe and secure.
Then I'm all right. Then I'm hearing Ladder and Bloom will be running this site. How did that come about?
So they typically manage all of our properties in Louisiana. They currently manage the Muses apartments that I mentioned earlier, as well as our properties in Baton Rouge.
What about the storage for these units? Because I'm listening to the sizes of these units. These are going to be some small units. Because we having that problem now at Florida with storage.
So I can't speak to the Florida development, but there's lots of storage in our units in terms of cabinet space as well, and other various closets.
I'm not talking about like cabinet space and all that, because we have all that. I'm talking about for bikes,
Oh, yes.
grills, this stuff, personal stuff.
Great. Yeah. So there's going to be bike racks all around the property. So you're going to be able to store your bicycle. You're going to be able to hop on your bike anytime you want. So definitely.
I'm serious.
That's a question. I'm lost. Is this property part of will this property be a part of the Florida site, or will it is this another subdivision that's coming in the community? I mean, I'm trying to figure this one out. I just heard something.
I'm not sure I understand your question, ma'am.
Okay, so we already have the Florida Housing Development, right? And that sits right across the street from this. So my question to you, are we talking about this as an extension of the Florida Housing Development, or is this privately owned property? I mean, a privately owned development.
So this property again is owned by Hano. It's the way that it's going to be functioning, and we are open to branding however the neighbors want to see it. I mean, we haven't decided on a name or anything. So
I wasn't talking about a name. I was just wondering, was this going to be included as part of, like they have Florida Housing and Development, and I was just wondering, was this something separate? Since I did hear that, will it be? You said Ladder and Bloom will be running this, right? Will be the manager over this, right?
most likely, yes.
So the young lady that's already on site who's doing management.
Oh, okay,
So
okay, yeah, separate. I'm sorry.
Separate and apart.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we are not trying to take over the existing Florida. No, ma'am.
Oh. Okay.
Let me ask a question. So this so I'm lost. I'm lost orders. I'm serious. Okay, I'm lost my thought.
Let me ask a question, Josh. So are we saying that the housing authority, who own the buildings? Who's going to own the buildings once they're built?
So there's going to be a ground lease on the property.
So you have a 99-year lease, right?
Something like that.
I'm assuming you got a 99, because there are going to be some regulatory operating agreements and all that stuff established. Am I correct?
Yes.
So with that being said, with the regulatory operating agreement, 9 chances out of 10, y'all gonna own the buildings. Hano just gonna own the land, and that this is not a part of the current 50 units that currently sits on the land. This is something totally different, separate and apart from the 50, right?
Yes.
So it has to be, because you're telling me, y'all, there's a ground lease, there's going to be a regulatory operating agreement. So clearly you guys are going to own these buildings. And I don't know what the financing again is really going to look like. And I think that's what Diane and them is trying to establish. This is not going to be a Hano managed property. This is going to be managed by a separate entity.
Ms. Wiggins, that is correct.
Okay.
It is a separate and distinct development from the current Florida public housing development.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is this: in that event, why weren't the entire community notified of this so that everybody could give an input on this? Because this was only sent out to Hano people. I mean, if we bringing something in your community, I think it's more than fair that we that we invite others. I mean, if it wouldn't be that I seen it and someone else called me and say, hey, did you know about the meeting? I'm a resident of this community. I just don't stay in a housing development. I stay in a house that's around here. I've been here for 62 years. My family owned this house in 1920. I'm not going anywhere. And it is an injustice to the community, which we call the Desire Florida community, to yes, it's on handle property, but it's in the entire community, but it's not a handle property, it's a private entity. And I think that I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but I think it's not fair to the entire community because y'all bringing in something we didn't even know about. I was thinking that this was a part of the Florida. I didn't know it was separate and apart. So I'm kind of lost for words on this.
If I can step in for a second, Ms. Marguerite, we actually sent out invitations to, and when I say we, I mean LDG in partnership with Hano, to residents in that area that are Hano participants. We also sent to members of the current Florida participants because they are close and adjacent to that area. We sent it out to the Citywide Tenants Association, which actually represents tenants in the entire area and entire city. And we invited the neighborhood associations, all in that same area, which will represent all of the members of the community in that area to their first meeting. And the city council office, which also will be a part of the conversation as to how the developers move forward. And so you're actually at the very first kickoff introduction meeting. So you're at the table.
So who I'm talking to, I don't know.
I'm Leslie Thomas. I'm Director of Communications for
name? Leslie,
You got me?
okay. Because
Yes,
I
ma'am.
know I didn't get anything. I didn't even. So, I understand I'm first at the table, but we all should be at the table.
Right, which is why all those groups were included.
I stay right across the street from it and I didn't get a letter.
So how were you notified? You were asked from someone on the site?
Yes.
Because the neighborhood, so what we did was we reached out to the neighborhood engagement office for the mayor and asked for some assistance with actually identifying the active neighborhood associations in that area. So we can definitely add you to the list, the stakeholders list, and anyone else that you think will be interested.
Yes, because I'm one of the navigators and I'm one of the ones that make sure everybody in the community is notified on everything.
Yes,
And
I think I saw you on TV yesterday, didn't I?
yeah.
Yes, I recognized your face. So yeah, you would actually be of assistance to Josh and the rest of the group and actually helping us identify other people in the area that we can reach out to.
Okay.
Take note, Josh. You need her.
Gotcha.
You do.
Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson.
Yes. I this community, we fight and we fight hard. And I'm not saying that in a threatening way or anything. I'm just saying about being included. And cause this, I'm floored because like I said, I thought this was a part of. I didn't know it was separate and apart until Ms. Wiggins made known that y'all have the property, but and you kept saying ladder and bloom. I'm like, okay. So I was kind of confused, but okay, I'm game.
And
So let me ask this question. So this, nothing could be changed right now. This is final. This is done.
oh, no. This is very preliminary, man, the site plan that you're viewing. So again, we're taking feedback from you guys.
You all have the contract for to do this site. Nothing can be turned around or nothing as this point now.
So this was an open process and we applied for the right to redevelop it several years ago, and we're again, coming to you guys to take your feedback.
That's what a loss of communication at. Because I was not notified about this site was being done with this for to be the resident council. And you know,
I don't have a problem with this.
going to meetings asking about the site to be redeveloped for tenants to come back home. That we had, this site was built for Florida residents that was originally from this site that wanted to come back home. And after Katrina, that's how I got these 50 units built back over here. And I always kept going to meetings asking about trying to get this site redeveloped for this whole site to be back, come back like we wanted it with the 300 and I think it was like 372 supposed to have been coming back to the site. But now, you know, we just got the 50 and now they're going to contract the other side out to Ladder and Bloom or to you all. And it's going to be a whole nother part of development away from, you know, with our people trying to come back home. And just like Ms. Marguerite, and we are saying, we represent low income residents, and some of these tax credit market rate project rates, yes, true that is, some of them project PBVs are low income residents, but I'm going after ACC units, and that's public housing units. And that's, you know, with this mixed income of people, I don't want Florida to be back like it was. That's what I'm getting at too. Cause you saying 300 more over there, we're finna be cluttered back like we was. We was after Katrina, when we was going for these units, we was spaced out. We was gonna be like we is now, living comfortable. Camera, you know, now you finna clutter these, now you're gonna look like, because you saying 300 buildings, so these gonna be stackable units, right? Going back to the old units.
So again, ma'am, this is, if you have a voucher, you can come and bring it to the size.
You're not understanding what I'm saying.
Let me help you out with this one, guys.
Jesus Christ.
And primarily, the property is still going to be low income and affordable housing. Again, and probably in another meeting, and maybe we probably need to have a conversation about how the property is going to be financed. But the Housing Authority did issue a solicitation for developers to come in to develop the land because they don't have the money to do the development. And the issue surrounding who's going to manage the property, I don't know what the solicitation looked like, but it's not etched in stone. He said they probably will do it because they manage, am I right, Josh? All of their properties, Ladder and Bloom does. And I will say this, and I ain't taking it back. I'd take Ladder and Bloom over some of them other private property managers out there. However,
Let the church say amen. I agree. I concur on that one.
I say this to you is that this is the only way y'all gonna get the property developed. Having the PBVs there, he's also saying that they're going to accept the Section 8 tenant vouchers is a good thing, because anybody that's holding a voucher can go there and look at the market rate units, because he said they'll take those vouchers as well. So I don't think what they're doing is a bad thing. I think that what has to happen is we just need to make sure that we don't get back to the place that we don't want to be in, and that is to have too many people on a site, because we will get back to a situation that we really don't want. But I think that they're affording us the opportunity to look at what they're proposing. And I think I heard him say they're open to review and further discuss some of the stuff that we've put out there today. So I just want you to calm down, because this is just their first time out the gate, and let's wait to see what they come back with.
Josh, I just have one thing to say. I promise y'all I'm gonna stop. Would y'all be open? What I'm saying by that, would y'all be open and inclusive with us? Because every time somebody in other words, this is the way I normally would say it. We're tired of people coming in this night ward and raping us and then running with the monies. So I'm sorry if I sound harsh, but my question is, if you make any changes or if you have questions, will y'all be reaching out to the community? Because we just tired of it. We tired. We can't take no more. and we will fight, fight. So I'm just asking, please, you need to keep us included in whatever you're doing, even if a change order comes up. Wait, let's check with the community and see if that's something they would like. I know that's going to hamper y'all little design and stuff like this, but you have to have lived here all these many years with us to understand where we're coming from. We're not trying to stop you from billing or anything. We're just asking to be included. That's it.
Yes, ma'am. So the answer to your question is a resounding yes. We will be in touch with you. Absolutely. So I'll work with Ms. Thomas to make sure that we get your contact information so we can be in touch.
And if you could, Ms. Marguerite, if you could help us with locating some other residents, like I said, we reached out. Yeah, we reached out to the Upper Ninth Ward Association, and I believe there was one other group that we reached out to. I can go back and look at this list, and you could probably help us with identifying folks in the area. But I do see Mr. Michael mentioned that there's an MPP process as a part of this too.
So that's typically with rezonings, the MPP process.
Okay, and this is not being rezoned, right?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Who's doing your MPP?
Again, there's not an MPP required for this because there's no rezoning needed.
Oh, that's true too. Okay.
Mr. Josh, I have a question. With the, I'm hearing, I see you saying community, commercial space. What does that consist of? Is you trying to do a store or something? Because in this area, we don't have a store. We have to go like in Gentilly, or Chalmette for the store, or either they have a store, a little grocery store down the street on Galvez. Is a couple of blocks away from the site. So when we will need a store, something on the site. Would you all be looking into something like that?
So in terms of a full-scale grocery store, probably not. I'll just be honest. Just because of the way that those things are financed is almost impossible. However, we will be very open to some sort of corner store or something like that. So if that's the sort of idea that you would like for commercial, please let us know that. Please let us know what you don't want. If you don't want a check cashing place, say no check cashing places. So we want to make sure that we're getting it, or if you don't want any commercial, say you don't want any commercial. Some people don't like commercial because of car traffic or something like that. So we're very open.
Josh, so you're saying when the contractors come in, so will you be doing it in Section 3 and or DBEs?
Yes,
when the contractors come in for people in this community, and how can the people of this community track to see what DBEs are being used and what Section 3 is being used?
Great question. So all that is going to be public with Hano. So we are working with Hano to track it as well. So you'll have access to that information.
My question is, again, you keep saying, oh, this going to be through Hano, but you just renting Hano property, but you leaving out the community. I have a whole community of senior citizens who don't have access to computers, which means I am the only access. So my question, like I said, supposing if somebody have a job, will y'all be sending stuff to the there's only 2 associations that pertains to this site, which would be the Desire and the Florida, because they are in so close proximity. But my question is, how will the community associations be involved in this project? Because it's more than just the Florida. The people there, you have people, we live in houses and we live all around this. So how would you How will you be involving community associations to be a part of this?
Great question. So again, we reached out to community organizations. We informed them beforehand, so we'll continue to do that. We're going to continue to reach out. Your questions earlier about Section 3 and DBE, yes, we are tracking those information. We are trying to reach out to those organizations now. So if you have Section 3 or DBEs or WBEs, please let us know so we can add those to those lists so they can be informed of the bidding process when that comes down the line. Last thing I want to say is that, again, this is the first meeting of at least 2 or 3 meetings. So we're going to continue getting more and more feedback from you guys. And then also I want to say, I know that the way that we've set up this call, it's currently 7:27 and it's going to cut us off at 7:30. So I want to get in any last minute questions before we dismiss, before it cuts us off.
I need someone from the ArchiCAD team to contact me. My number and stuff is already included.
Okay, we will do that, Ms. Johnston. So we've got your contact information. We've got time for probably one more question from those that are on the call. If we make it quick before it cuts us off. Okay. Hearing none, I just want to remind everyone, and I just want to say again, thank you for all your feedback. This has been extremely helpful and informative. I apologize if you felt you were out of the loop. I promise we're going to do better to make sure that you're informed and aware of the processes going forward. Thank you all for all your tremendous feedback. Again, this is going to be posted publicly on Hanno's website shortly after the call. We have been recording it. You can also mail in information to me at the address below, or we can connect one-on-one individually to see and get your further feedback. So for all of you guys that have just been listening in, please be sure that you review the PowerPoint presentation on Hanno's website and reach out if you have comments or questions. And with that, I'll close the meeting and again say thank you again very much for your time. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all for coming.
Thank you.